So we meet again today, and today we are going to talk about a country which has a special significance for Pakistan. That is Great Britain, the UK. They were our colonial masters, and to a very great extent, whatever political system and the civil service, in fact the whole administrative system which exists in Pakistan mimics, is based on, is a copy of the British administrative system. So it would be very instructive to see how the British polity and its administrative system works. As with the American system, we'll start with looking at the political side. Of the nature of democracy, how governments are formed, what kind of organizations exist in the system. So let's move on. When we talk about the British Constitution, it not only covers UK but also Northern Ireland. And we do know that UK incorporates Scotland and Wales also. So generally, Constitution of UK and Northern Ireland would be called or bracketed as the British Constitution. It covers all these areas. It is supposed to be the oldest constitutional system of the world and also the oldest democracy. And as such, no wonder, it is known as the mother of constitutions. बरतानिया की कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन जो है वो दुनिया की कदीम तरीन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है और बरतानिया के तर्ज़ हुकूमत को सबसे पहला डेमोक्रेटिक सिस्टम आप कह सकते हैं। और जैसे मैंने पहले अर्ज़ किया था, हमने बहुत कुछ अख्ज़ किया हुआ है अपना पॉलिटिकल सिस्टम में, अपने एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव सिस्टम में बरतानिया के सिस्टम से। और इसको कहा गया है कि ये ब्लेंड है मोनार्की का, एरिस्टोक्रेसी का और डेमोक्रेसी का। Although democracy is the major element, लेकिन बहरहाल किंग या क्वीन होता है और हाउस ऑफ लॉर्ड्स है जिसमें एरिस्टोक्रेट्स बैठते हैं। So we look a little deeper into these aspects. Another very interesting feature, it is an unwritten constitution. Which means that we do not have in black and white that who will exercise what power, as is the case in other institutions, in other countries. We have seen that many countries have huge, voluminous constitutions which go into a lot of detail about who is going to do what. But as far as the UK is concerned, maybe a very little part, a few pages of the Constitution are there as such per se, but it's primarily unwritten. तो ये अनोखी कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है जो कि लिखी हुई नहीं है एज सच। यानी अगर आप कोई किताब कहें कि वो उसको हम कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन कह सकते हैं और उसके 100 सफ़ात हैं या कुछ, तो ऐसी कोई चीज नहीं है यूके में। और इसीलिए क्योंकि ये रिटन नहीं है कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, तो इसको एनैक्ट करने की भी जरूरत नहीं पड़ी। ये किसी पार्लियामेंट ने किसी मेजॉरिटी से नहीं बनाई, ये इवॉल्व हुई है ओवर अ पीरियड ऑफ टाइम। यानी वक्त के साथ साथ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन अपना शेप डिफाइन करती रही, डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ पावर्स की शक्ल निकल आई और जो टाइम के डिमांड्स थी उनके मुताबिक इसमें चेंजेस आते रहे। सो इट इज अ ब्लेंड ऑफ फॉर्मल लॉज, प्रेसिडेंट एंड ट्रेडिशन। Very few constitutions as such are depending on tradition. लॉ में प्रेसिडेंट का एक इंपॉर्टेंस है, लेकिन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में इनकॉर्पोरेट होना इनफॉर्मली प्रेसिडेंट्स का या ट्रेडिशंस का, या कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का उनसे इवॉल्व होना, ये खासियत सबसे ज्यादा यूके की है। So it is a combination of formal laws, precedents and tradition. When we look at the conventions, traditions कह लें, conventions कह लें आप, जिनके ऊपर based हैं कुछ distribution of powers, king और queen, मेल या फीमेल जो भी उस वक्त मोनार्क हो, उनकी जो भी लीगल पावर्स हैं, विच आर लिमिटेड, दे आर अगेन मोर सेरेमोनियल नाउअडेज, they have to, or they can only exercise those powers as a matter of convention and tradition on the advice of the Prime Minister, और वो कैबिनेट से रूट होके आती है एडवाइस, क्योंकि प्राइम मिनिस्टर और कैबिनेट तकरीबन एक ही बॉडी समझी जाती है। एक ही बॉडी कैबिनेट और प्राइम मिनिस्टर, कोई दो अलग चीजें नहीं समझी जाती। और जब इलेक्शन होता है तो जो भी मेजॉरिटी कमांड करती है पार्टी, उसके लीडर को, इट इज द किंग और द मोनार्क और द क्वीन हु अपॉइंट्स दैट पर्सन एज द प्राइम मिनिस्टर ऑफ द कंट्री। Very understandable. Or the monarch can only dissolve, I mean the power is there to dissolve the lower house, the commons, only on the advice of the prime minister. So the king or the queen hardly have any inherent powers, और जो पार्टी लीडर को, मेजॉरिटी पार्टी के लीडर को पीएम बनाना है, दैट इज रियली ऑटोमेटिक इन अ वे, बिकॉज दैट कैन नॉट बी कंसिडर्ड एज एनी ग्रेट इनहेरेंट पावर ऑल्सो, इट हैज टू हैपन। फिर द मोनार्क शुड गिव असेंट टू ऑल बिल्स पास्ड by the parliament. This is one important power. On the other hand, the cabinet or the prime minister are not responsible to the monarch. They are responsible to the House of Commons, that is the lower house. We have the two houses in the UK. The lower house is the House of Commons and the higher house is the House of Lords. House of Commons is the powerful house in this case. Unlike the Congress in the United States, where we saw the upper house, the Senate, and not the House of Representatives, the lower house, was the most powerful body, having a lot of executive related powers. Another source of British Constitution, great charters, really historical background. We have heard of Magna Carta, supposedly to be the first time when people at large forced a king to come up with something which could be called the equivalent of a Bill of Rights of today. Freedoms. तो मैग्ना कार्टा से अगर आप स्टार्ट करें, जो इम्पोर्टेंट चार्टर्स इंग्लैंड में आए हैं, तो एक और लैंडमार्क पिटिशन ऑफ राइट्स का आता है 1689 में. तो ये सारी जो राइट्स थी, जो फ्रीडम्स थी, जो इन चार्टर्स के जरिए आई, वो इनकॉर्पोरेट होती गई और एक किस्म का उस इनफॉर्मल कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का हिस्सा बनती गई. And they get interpreted from time to time. So what are these charters? ये constitutional landmarks आप इनको कह सकते हैं. ऐसे historical documents हैं जो आम आदमी की लिबर्टी के बारे में, राइट्स के बारे में declarations करते हैं या उनको रिकॉर्ड किया गया. So these were mega events in the history of UK when such documents came up. So all these charters form a part of the Constitution. Statutes, S-T-A-T-U-T-E-S, statutes. Now, statutes are those laws which are made by the British Parliament. They are like any other law, going through a process, through both the houses, finally they're sent by the Crown, and then they become a statute or a law or a piece of legislation. And these particular statutes define and regulate the principles, structure and function of British political institutions. So we are not talking about all statutes, but those statutes which are relevant to the Constitution, क्योंकि वो define कर रही हैं कि political institutions की क्या functions होनी है और उनका structure क्या होना है. इनमें Habeas Corpus Act है, ये भी एक फ्रीडम का एस्पेक्ट है. फिर स्टैट्यूट ऑफ वेस्टमिनिस्टर्स हैं, मिनिस्टर ऑफ क्राउन एक्ट ऑफ 1937 है और बहुत से दूसरे हैं. तो along with those conventions and traditions and the charters, historical landmarks, we have statutes also. These laws will define to some extent the power of the various organs of the political system in Britain. All these are, in a way, part of the Constitution of the UK. वो जो बात हो रही थी traditions की, traditions get enshrined in the common law of a country. And from time to time, decisions of the judiciary were treated as law. Even today, in cases, we do quote precedents of what the judges have decided before. So common law was formalized things of what was formalized form of what was traditionally happening in the shape of a law or a judge-made law. And it defined the relationship between the government and the citizen, very important, kind of social contract arising out of tradition, out of common law. But these are not to be underestimated. ये बहुत ही अहम तरीन जुज है बरतानिया की कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का, क्योंकि इसमें शहरियों को और हुकूमत के जो तल्लुकात हैं उनके बारे में लिखा गया है. And one authority, Dr. Ogg, defined the situation as follows. Common law is that vast body of legal precept and usage which through the centuries has acquired binding and almost immutable character. You can't refute it. Those things, those activities, the manner in which things are done, those relationships have been cemented over a period of time. Through usage, that they have become binding. उनसे इनकारी कोई नहीं हो सकता, और वो भी कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का एक पिलर समझा जाते हैं. सो कॉमन लॉ फीड्स इनटू द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ द यूके. फिर फ्रॉम टाइम टू टाइम आपके पास लीगल कमेंट्रीज अवेलेबल होती हैं. Authorities commenting on what a particular law, what a particular common law implies, how it developed and what it implies and what is the spirit of that law. Not just the letter, but the letter and spirit. So, the common law, as a result of usage over a period of time, और उसके वो सब नुआंसेस और कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स जिन पर लीगल कमेंट्रीज भी हो चुकी हैं, उनको एक्सप्लेन कर चुकी हैं, टू बिकम पार्ट ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. Interesting characteristics. The British Constitution is a flexible constitution. There is no laid down procedure for amendment. और generally जो हम ये कहते हैं कि constitutional law is a supra law. Not necessarily. Because here we see constitution is a conglomerate, a combination of many laws which define various people's powers and relationships. All the actors in a state are bound together by various laws. They may be common law, they may be arising out of tradition, or as a result of the freedom enshrined in various charters. So we can say that constitutional law is nothing extraordinary. It's part of the overall body of law. It's unwritten, so it's flexible. It can evolve. Flexible would mean that it can evolve. So that becomes the strength, in a way, the strength of the constitutional system, that you can evolve at times. It has evolved at times. और आपको जो उसको अमेंड करने के लिए कोई 2/3 की दोनों हाउसेस की मेजॉरिटी या कोई स्पेशल प्रोसीजर नहीं चाहिए. ये भी फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी है. अक्सर मुल्कों की कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन हमारी अपनी आसान नहीं है अमेंड करना. It was not easy to bring in the last amendment in our constitution, when a lot of changes were being incorporated to perhaps make it more democratic in nature. But no special procedure is required for that. In the UK, it is a unitary constitution. Unlike ours, it's not a federation, it's a unitary constitution. So there is one government only, the national government. No provincial governments, as in case of Pakistan, or state governments, as in case of the US. So you have one central government which is supreme. However, then you have a system of local government below the central government. There is no intermediary step between the two, no other tier of government. When we talk about form of governments, two forms which we are looking at or have looked at till now are the presidential form in the US, where the president is all-powerful, the real chief executive officer, combining the powers of a prime minister and a president in a parliamentary system like ours. In UK also, it is a parliamentary system of government. And over here, ceremonial head of the government is the king. In our case, it is the president. And now with the latest amendment, it really is the president, because most of the powers of the president have been handed down to the prime minister, which were originally enshrined in the constitution as powers of the president. So now we can say that our president is more or less a merely ceremonial. Similarly, the king is the head of the state, so is the president of our country. But that is where it starts and where it ends almost. Hardly any other powers. Of course, you see the king and the queen and the royal family doing a lot of welfare work in the UK. They are behind many a movement for the good of people. But as far as law is concerned, or affairs of the state are concerned, their role is limited indeed. And we do know in a parliamentary system of government, it is the party with the majority who forms the government, unless it's a coalition government. Then if no one has a majority, then certain parties will come together to form a majority, and a coalition government will come into being. But most of the time in the UK we see that one of the parties does get a majority, which is interesting. You can have the Labour or the Conservatives, getting a majority most of the time. Or maybe some small parties here and there who join them. We already talked about the crown, the king or the queen appointing the prime minister. But again, that is more or less automatic. There is no other way out. No king or queen can appoint anyone else as the prime minister. So again, this is a very, very symbolic role. Now, the House of Commons, we said, was the most powerful house in this whole setup. And the ministers who comprise the cabinet are responsible to the House of Commons for their actions. And there is a better coordination because the minister, as in our case also, is both a member of the parliament and also the executive head of the department or the organization or the ministry which he or she heads. So there is this smooth relationship which comes up in a parliamentary government of this type between the minister, in fact the whole cabinet, and the House of Commons, the lower house. One major power which the Crown has is that it can dissolve the House of Commons on the advice of the Prime Minister. Again, it's routine, it's automatic, but it is the King which will dissolve. The Prime Minister himself, without taking the King into or the Queen into confidence, will not be able to dissolve the lower house. Supreme power lies with the Parliament. This is the basic concept of the sovereignty of Parliament. What does this mean? That the Parliament is all powerful. So, जो ब्रिटिश पार्लियामेंट है वो जो एग्जिस्टिंग लॉज हैं उनको ख़त्म कर सकती है या उनकी जगह नया लॉ बना सकती है या जो एग्जिस्टिंग लॉ है उसमें तब्दीलियां ला सकती है. So comprehensive legislative powers are there. And an authority, de Lolme, described it as the British Parliament can do anything except make a woman a man and a man a woman. So he was just trying to emphasize the sweeping powers of the Parliament to make, amend laws, bring in any kind of changes. No curtailment of any sort. And then there is no distinction between the constituent authority and law-making authority of British Parliament. People who have been elected are the ones who are going to make the laws. So that brings them very close to the people. And since no other tier of government exists except the local government, there is this close relationship between the constituents and the legislators. So these aspects ensure the sovereignty of the British Parliament. Now some of the important aspects of British Constitution. First of all, the rule of law. Parliament may be sovereign. The executive may emanate from the Parliament. The members of Parliament are the ministers, but they have to remain within the confines of law. All government action has to be in accordance with law. Rule of law is supreme, and everyone is equal before law. So it is applicable to all. This is one of the basic principles of the British Constitution. It is based on the rule of law. This implies, इसका मतलब क्या है कि आप बगैर किसी वजह के किसी के साथ कोई ज्यादती नहीं कर सकते. जो कुछ भी आपने करना है वो बिल्कुल कानून के मुताबिक करना है. This, like in case of US, we talked about how there would be protection of freedom or property of life, and you could not do anything. You could not damage any aspect. You could not infringe on these rights unless a due course of law had been followed. So the rule of law is enshrined in various constitutions, in fact in all constitutions of the world, in one form or another. Of course, we know that the UK is a monarchy, but not monarchy in the typical 18th century sense. It is a constitutional monarchy. And the crown is just the visible symbol of the supreme executive power. And it's interesting to say the sentence that the king or queen only reign but do not rule. तो ये हमें बताता है कि जो मोनार्की का स्टेटस है वो सिंबॉलिक है, वो सिंबल है पावर का, लेकिन वो पावर एक्सरसाइज नहीं करती. उसके नाम में डेमोक्रेटिक सिस्टम, पार्लियामेंट्री सिस्टम, द प्राइम मिनिस्टर, द मिनिस्टर्स, वो एक्सरसाइज कर रहे होते हैं. So the crown, the king or the queen, reigns but does not rule. तो क्राउन एक इंस्टीट्यूशन है, और जो इनकम्बेंट होगा वो किंग या क्वीन होगा. थोड़ा सा ये हमें समझ लेना चाहिए कि क्राउन का मतलब क्या है. जैसे आप कहें कि मिनिस्टर फॉर फॉरेन अफेयर्स एक ऑफिस है, एक इंस्टीट्यूशन है, और उसका जो इनकम्बेंट है मिस्टर ABC, दैट इज अ पर्सन. इसी तरह जब आप ब्रिटिश कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन की बात करते हैं और कहीं क्राउन का जिक्र आता है और कहीं किंग का और कहीं क्वीन का, तो डिस्टिंक्शन यही है कि इनकम्बेंट क्राउन का या रॉयल्टी का, रॉयल हेड जो है वो किंग या क्वीन है. सो किंग इज अ पर्सन वेयर एज क्राउन इज एन इंस्टीट्यूशन. अब हम चलते हैं कुछ और एस्पेक्ट्स ब्रिटिश कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के. जैसे हमारे यहां है, जैसे यूएस में हमने देखा बाय कैमरलिज्म, two houses, House of Lords, the upper house, and it has the distinction of being the oldest chamber in the world. यानी पुराने यूके में हिस्टोरिकली ये लॉर्ड्स और नोबल फैमिलीज ये मिलकर सारे स्टेट के अफेयर्स रन करते से, और उस वक्त से अपर हाउस को हाउस ऑफ लॉर्ड्स कहा जाता है. यानी पीपल हु हैव बीन इंडक्टेड फ्रॉम द एरिस्टोक्रेसी, एरिस्टोक्रेट्स, द एलीट फैमिलीज, offshoots of the royal family, the dukes, the duchess, they may be part of the House of Lords. और हाउस ऑफ कॉमन्स जो है, दिस इज द प्लेस where the real power lies. यहां पे जो रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स हैं वो इलेक्ट होते हैं, जैसे हमारे यहां MPAs, rather MNAs इलेक्ट होते हैं. तो जो मेंबर्स हैं हमारे यहाँ लेजिस्लेटिव असेंबली के या इंडिया में, दे आर elected on the basis of universal adult franchise. What does that mean? That means each person has one vote, and they are going to cast that vote to elect a representative from their constituency. So the House of Commons is elected, and its members come from various constituencies and have been elected on a one vote, one person principle. Everyone is supposed to vote during an election, but whatever votes are cast on the basis of one vote, one person, जिसको एडल्ट फ्रेंचाइज भी कहा जाता है, यूनिवर्सल एडल्ट फ्रेंचाइज भी कहा जाता है, उसमें जिसके मेजॉरिटी वोट्स होते हैं वो जीत के हाउस ऑफ कॉमन्स में आ जाता है. इस वक्त जो स्ट्रेंथ है 659 सीट्स. इंग्लैंड, वेल्स, स्कॉटलैंड और नॉर्दर्न आयरलैंड जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट्स हैं, रीजनल कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट्स हैं, who don't have their own government but are distinctive otherwise. We all know that generally the Scots say, oh, the British, we don't like them. So they're very distinctive, these four areas or regions, what is known as England, what is known as Wales, what is known as Scotland, and of course, across the sea, the upper part of Ireland, Northern Ireland. Some more characteristics. We know it's a parliamentary form of government, and it is provided for in the Constitution that it should be such. The cabinet of the ministers collectively has a lot of executive authority. Unlike Pakistan, where the cabinet many a time becomes a rubber stamp for what the Prime Minister would like to be done. The cabinet, practically speaking, in the UK is a very, very powerful executive body. और उसमें कौन कौन होता है? मिनिस्टर साहबान होते हैं सीनियर, और प्राइम मिनिस्टर ऑफ कोर्स. और अगर हम देखें कि वो कौन से लोग हैं इसमें, तो इसमें प्राइम मिनिस्टर होता है, लॉर्ड ऑफ द ट्रेजरी होता है, मिनिस्टर फॉर सिविल सर्विस होता है, चांसलर ऑफ द डची ऑफ लैंकास्टर, Lord President of the Council, President of the Board of Trade, Lord Chancellor, First Lord of Admiralty, Postmaster General, Secretaries of State of Home, Foreign, Defense, Social Services, Environment and Education, and Science. So a very heterogeneous but comprehensive body. British Cabinet happens to be covering all the important sectors or aspects related to government affairs. The representatives are there. The heads are there. और कौन? Agriculture का minister, fisheries, health, pension, very important aspect in the UK, because it's an aging population after all. Transport and labour, very important. Secretary of State for Scotland and Secretary of State for Wales. These two regional, very important regions of the kingdom are represented in the form of the Secretary of State for each of them. So the political input of these two regions comes in this form also into the cabinet. तो आप देख रहे हैं कि कैबिनेट में सब इम्पोर्टेंट लोग, सब इम्पोर्टेंट मिनिस्ट्रीज के हेड्स, सेक्रेटरीज इंक्लूडेड हैं. And as such, it becomes a very powerful executive body. वो सिर्फ प्राइम मिनिस्टर की एक रबर स्टैम्प के तौर पे नहीं एक्ट करेगी. However, formally, the Attorney General, the Solicitor General, the Lord Advocate, and the Postmaster General are not members of the cabinet. Of course, they can be consulted when something relevant to their specialization is being discussed or some decisions have to be taken. But they are not elected and they are not, they are appointees and they are not as such members of the cabinet. Another very interesting body, Privy Council, does not exist. Nothing of this sort exists in Pakistan, in our country, for example, and not at all in the US. The Privy Council came into existence during the 15th century as an advisory body to the British monarch, because in the 15th century, 16th century, and so on, we had these very powerful monarchs who were ruling and fighting and doling out things to people, favors to people. So in order to govern well from their point of view, they came up with this idea of an advisory body, and it was called the Privy Council, from the word privilege, Privy Council. It consists of 330 members, including all cabinet ministers, and is presided over by Lord President of the Council. It still exists and has a role to play. We did talk about the importance and power of the cabinet. But with the passage of time, the Prime Minister's power in the UK setup has been increasing manifold. So although cabinet is still very important and can exert a lot of influence on the decisions of the Prime Minister, the Prime Minister has evolved as a very powerful personality, very powerful executive in the UK. तो गोया वक्त के साथ साथ कुछ कैबिनेट की स्टैंडिंग और पावर्स कम होती गई हैं और प्राइम मिनिस्टर की स्टैंडिंग और उसकी पावर्स खासी बढ़ चुकी हैं आज तक. इसीलिए ये कहा जा सकता है that the PM plays a dominant role in the British politico-administrative system. Politics में, administrative system में, it is the Prime Minister who is calling the shots. तो गोया not as powerful as the President of the US, but over a period of time, जो प्राइम मिनिस्टर है बरतानिया का, उसकी पावर्स ज़्यादा होती गई हैं और the Prime Minister has in a way been able to wrest away certain powers from the cabinet. Very interesting concept. Only present perhaps in very few democracies. Concept of a shadow cabinet. What is a shadow cabinet? बरतानिया में आमतौर पे दो पार्टीज रूल करती रही हैं, कभी एक कभी दूसरी, और जो ऑपोजिशन पार्टी होती है उसकी भी बड़ी से होती है. उससे बड़ी फॉर्मल रिकग्निशन होती है और वो अपने मेंबर्स को पॉलिटिकल प्रोसेस में से गुजार कर मैच्योर कर रही होती है। और उसका ऑब्जेक्टिव ये होता है कि जो भी पॉलिसीज रूलिंग पार्टी फॉलो कर रही है, जो भी डिसीजंस उसके कैबिनेट कर रहा है, उनको क्रिटिसाइज करें, उनको इवैल्यूएट करें, उनके ऑल्टरनेटिव सजेस्ट करें, उनको बैलेंस करना है। क्योंकि नेक्स्ट टाइम उन्होंने पावर में आना है और वो बताना चाहते हैं कि हम इन मसाइल को समझते हैं, हम इन मसाइल से बेहतर तरीके से बर्दाश्त हो सकते हैं। Hence the shadow cabinet. It runs a parallel government with its shadow cabinet. तो क्या हो रहा है? The shadow cabinet is formed by the opposition party to balance the ruling cabinet. यानी कैबिनेट का अगर एक मिनिस्टर है एक डिपार्टमेंट का, तो शेडो कैबिनेट में पैरेलल एक बंदा उन्होंने एज अ शेडो कैबिनेट मिनिस्टर बनाया हुआ होगा। To balance the ruling cabinet and to prepare its members for future ministerial office. जब वो एक्चुअल मिनिस्टर को टेक ऑन करेगा, उसको क्रिटिसाइज करेगा, उसकी पॉलिसीज को, उसके डिसीजंस को इवैल्यूएट करेगा और उनको हाईलाइट करेगा कि इनमें ये वीकनेसेस हैं, तो यू आर प्रिपेयरिंग दैट पर्सन टू बी अ मिनिस्टर हिमसेल्फ। तो ये बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग फिनोमेना है और इसके बारे में ये कहा जा रहा है, इन द शेडो कैबिनेट every member in the ruling cabinet is shadowed by a corresponding member in the opposition cabinet. तो गवर्नमेंट का कैबिनेट है और उसका साया कैबिनेट यानी शेडो कैबिनेट है, और इस साये में भी उतने ही लोग हैं जितने गवर्नमेंट में हैं। तो गवर्नमेंट के कैबिनेट में हर मिनिस्टर का एक क्लोन या लेट्स से not really a clone, but with the same portfolio, there is a representative of the opposition party in the shadow cabinet. The members of the shadow cabinet watch critically the working of the department assigned to them. लेट अस से अगर आप शेडो मेंबर हैं कैबिनेट में हेल्थ के, तो आप जो भी एक्शन हेल्थ की मिनिस्ट्री में हो रहा है या हेल्थ इश्यूज जो कन्फ्रंट हो रहे हैं आर कन्फ्रंटेड बाय द पीपल, you keep on evaluating them, you do critical examination of the working of the health department, of the health ministry. और इसीलिए इस शेडो कैबिनेट को ऑल्टरनेटिव कैबिनेट भी कहा जाता है, क्योंकि नेक्स्ट टाइम अगर इस दूसरी पार्टी ने जो अब ऑपोजिशन में उसने पावर में आना है, तो इट्स वेरी लाइकली कि वही लोग जो जिस डिपार्टमेंट को वॉच कर रहा था, इवैल्यूएट कर रहा था, क्रिटिसाइज कर रहा था when they were in the opposition, may be given that portfolio, the portfolio of that particular ministry which he was shadowing, he or she was shadowing. तो ये जेनिंग्स साहब कहते हैं, the leader of opposition is the alternative prime minister. He enjoys the status of the minister and is paid by the government. So the recognition is there. Complete recognition of the institution and the process of shadow cabinet. तो आपने ना सिर्फ लीडर ऑफ ऑपोजिशन को रिकॉग्नाइज किया है, बल्कि उसको स्टेटस मिनिस्टर का दे दिया, कई लोग उसको ऑल्टरनेटिव प्राइम मिनिस्टर भी कहते हैं, और गवर्नमेंट उसको पे कर रही है. If you have a status of minister, you get all those perks and privileges. अब जो ब्रिटिश कैबिनेट है, उसका आगे एक सेक्रेटेरिएट है. You need a big secretariat for a powerful cabinet. And you need a lot of diversity of the personnel who work over there, since they are going to handle specialized jobs. They are going to make proposals, they are going to advise, they are going to put up papers, they are going to help in decision making of the cabinet. So the cabinet secretariat does not just have its support staff, which comprises the cabinet secretariat and would be headed by a cabinet secretary. जैसे हमारे यहाँ एक कैबिनेट सेक्रेटेरिएट है, उस कैबिनेट सेक्रेटेरिएट में वो सपोर्ट स्टाफ है जो कैबिनेट के मैटर्स को डील करता है. बट अनलाइक द यूके, इट्स नॉट वेरी वेरी एम्बिशियस. इतना बड़ा सेटअप नहीं है और उसका एडवाइजरी रोल नहीं है, लिमिटेड है. ज्यादा पेपर पुशिंग का रोल है. समरीज जो मिनिस्ट्रीज से आई उनको थोड़ा सा ठीक करके कैबिनेट के व्यूज, कैबिनेट सेक्रेटेरिएट के व्यूज ऐड करके आगे कैबिनेट में पेश कर देना, ये सबसे बड़ा काम. कैबिनेट मीटिंग्स होल्ड करवाना पाकिस्तान में. लेकिन यूके में हम देखते हैं कि उसमें उन्होंने ऐड ऑन कर दी हैं कई ऑफिसेस. सेंट्रल स्टैटिस्टिकल ऑफिस, जब आपके पास स्टैटिस्टिकल ऑफिस डायरेक्टली है तो यू हैव इंफॉर्मेशन अबाउट एवरीथिंग, स्टैटिस्टिक्स अबाउट एवरीथिंग. किस सेक्टर में क्या हो रहा है, रेट ऑफ ग्रोथ क्या है मुख्तलिफ सेक्टर्स का, एंड सो ऑन. A historical section. The British are very, very much into history. But here we are talking about, and we do know that they have these great museums and archives right from the colonial days. So the historical section is there, which is custodian of all this record and provides that depth to the cabinet, historical depth to decision making of the cabinet. And of course, importance of science, the chief scientific officer, and an efficiency unit. Efficiency unit. You have to run a government as efficiently as possible. So you incorporate a unit in the secretariat which tries to find ways and means of making the government run better and be more efficient. This is directly connected to the administrative system of the country. The office for the Minister for Civil Service. So you have this very important post of the Minister of Civil Service. That shows how much importance is attached to the civil service and to the administration of the country and to the administrative system of the country, that the office of the Minister for the Civil Service is available to the cabinet all the time. It is part of the cabinet's secretariat. अब करते क्या है कैबिनेट? It organizes the business of the war cabinet and serves the Committee of Imperial Defense also. So this is on the military side. And the secretariat also has been growing, evolving. More and more units have been added into the Cabinet Office, reflecting the importance of the Cabinet. And the Prime Minister in a way. So the functions of the Cabinet Secretariat are to circulate the memoranda and other documents required for the business of the Cabinet and its committees. So whatever subcommittees there are of the Cabinet, they are also being supported, provided secretarial support by the Secretariat. It compiles the agenda for meeting of the Cabinet and its committees. So there will be an agenda for each meeting, then minutes will be taken, the meeting will be held, the minutes will be taken, they will be circulated to all the stakeholders, and whatever decisions have been taken have to be complied with. तो वो जैसे मैंने अर्ज किया कि जो भी कंक्लूजन्स हैं या डिसीजंस है कैबिनेट के, they will be penned down, what is called taking the minutes of the meeting. उसके अलावा अगर कुछ इश्यूज पे रिपोर्ट्स मांगी हैं कैबिनेट ने, वो भी वो प्रोवाइड करेंगे. और जो सब कमिटीज वर्क कर रही हैं उनकी रिपोर्ट्स भी ये कैबिनेट सेक्रेटेरिएट जो है फाइनलाइज करेगा और प्रेजेंटेबल फॉर्म में उनको पेश करेगा. और जो कैबिनेट के पेपर्स हैं और उनके जो डिसीजंस या कंक्लूजन्स हैं उनका कस्टोडियन भी यही सेक्रेटेरिएट है. सो कैबिनेट पेपर्स would consist of all those proposals which were received from various government offices or otherwise and were discussed upon and decisions taken upon them. So this is the record keeping function of the Secretariat of the British Cabinet. Prime Minister is going to head this overall, but the civil servant in charge is the Cabinet Secretary, as in Pakistan. And it is the nerve center and the main coordinating agency of the British government. Very important. यहाँ से सब कुछ फ्लो करता है और कोऑर्डिनेट होता है. Of course it is, as we saw before, a staff agency to the British cabinet. फिर मॉनिटरिंग रोल है कि जो भी डिसीजन या कंक्लूजन कैबिनेट के हैं या हुए हैं उनको इसने मॉनिटर करना है. वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. You can't let a decision lose out there. It has to be followed up, monitored as to whether it is being implemented and implemented speedily or not. ये निहायत ही जरूरी. हमारे यहाँ भी थोड़ा कैबिनेट के पास ये रोल है कि कैबिनेट डिसीजंस जो है उनको हमारा कैबिनेट सेक्रेटेरिएट भी मॉनिटर करता है और रिपोर्ट पेश करता है कैबिनेट को कि जी ये जो कंक्लूजन से ये डिसीजंस थे जो कुछ मिनट्स में कहा गया था उन पर क्या अमल दरामद अब तक हो चुका है. And now we'll just, to end it, our discussion today, we'll look at the departments of the government, of the British government. They are the general departments, 3 general departments. It is the treasury, very important. That is where the money is, that is where the purse is. That's the exchequer. That's where all the taxes come in. The Home Office, again very important, because the Home Office deals with all internal issues relating to law and order, to peace, tranquility. And the Scottish Office. As I said, Scotland is a somewhat ethnically and otherwise too diverse. So a special Scottish Affairs Office is there. And then, like we have in Pakistan, the economic departments, like just a few listed here: the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Food. There would be a Trade Department, the Custom and Excise, and other financial related departments. Like we have in Pakistan, a whole list of economic departments can be there. Then we have social departments. We can have social welfare departments. This would include social security, pension, health, education, etc. And then, of course, very important, the foreign policy side of it all. What are called the imperial and foreign departments. They're going to formulate and evolve the foreign policy, and the incumbents will go out as ambassadors also, so very important. And last but not least, the defense departments. A number of defense departments relating to Navy, to aviation, to the military. So these departments have their importance also. So today, we have looked at how the British polity has been conceived and is working. And tomorrow, rather in the next lecture, we will go on and have a look at the nuts and bolts of the administrative system in the UK, and also see how it compares with our own, which happens to be a legacy from the colonial days. Thank you.